Okay.
The name's Bell. Gabriel Bell. Actually, no, it's actually Jeff Mader, but I am your host here for Deuce's 99ish. We are covering season 3, episodes 11 and 12, past tense. But it's really future tense because this is set in August/September of 2024. So we get a little bit of glimpse into the future, but it's really just a snapshot of the the world we live in today. To break it all down here, we have some great co-hosts. We have my brother. We'll bring him in first. Would be
Good evening.
The greatest of the great co-hosts.
I don't like your hat.
Well, what's wrong with my hat?
Hey, but we're on the same side, Jeff. But I don't like your hat.
I don't know if it's good day.
But Jeff, are you a gimme or are you a dim or are you a ghost?
I think I'm a demi-them ghost.
You're what? You're all of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. I think these labels that they have for people are kind of silly. But
it's the slang of the 20s, man. You're just not with it yet.
The roaring 20s of the 2020s. We heard some chuckles in the background, and we'll bring in them so they'll actually have the ability to say something. The tag team couple, ding ding ding. Let's bring them in.
Hello.
Hey, what's up? Are you ready to talk about past tense?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Is Cisco at the height of his powers? Avery Brooks at the height of his powers in this episode, or what?
Well, this is just the beginning, but it's good.
This is just the beginning.
But you get on my nerves, and I don't like your hat. Now put the gun down.
Put the gun down. Oh, man. All right. Speaking of going full hawk, let's bring in our last co-host, Jameel Robinson. How are you? Ding, ding, ding.
I love this episode. Cisco is awesome, but it's not full hawk. He's just unfurling the wings, just getting a little stretch on. We'll see it later on, but he's getting ready. He's getting ready.
Yep. At first, he doesn't want to go full hawk. He's like, no, Bashir, we can't. Okay, let's set up the premise of this episode first. But I know we're kind of already jumping in. But basically, what happens is the Defiance at Earth. Kira and O'Brien are there. They're on the bridge, and Cisco, Bashir, and Dax are beaming down to Earth. And then all of a sudden, something goes wrong.
Why are they coming to Earth, Jeff?
I think they're going to Starfleet headquarters. That's why they're going to San Francisco.
I heard he was going to see his sister in Portland. That was the biggest, most substantive reason I had that they came all this way home.
Yeah, but it seems like they were going to Starfleet headquarters because it seemed they had something official to do.
And they had an official function to go to.
Dinner.
They had to do a
O'Brien
debrief.
didn't need to come.
They had to do a debrief on what's happening with the founders and the Jem'Hadar. And during this, they had other things that they had, including a dinner, as well as seeing his sister as well.
Yes.
And so what ends up happening is all of a sudden, Cisco, Dax, and Bashir all end up hundreds of years in the past from where their timeline to 2024 is where they go back in time, because O'Brien explains in a great bit of dialogue. I don't know if you have that clip, Dave, but it's amazing when he's explaining.
I'm getting a bit of echo through, or I'm getting a bit of reverb.
Yeah, I'm hearing a bit too. I don't know.
Who's
I
on
don't think it's me.
speakers?
I don't know where.
You just might have to turn down your volume a bit. Is it Jameel?
I think it's the Millards, but
It might be us.
Yeah, I think it's just because of the laptop.
Headphones on.
But that's okay.
I'm going to get me some headphones too.
Okay, all headphones for everybody.
Headphones for all.
Yeah. I don't like your hat though. Okay, so in this episode they get transported back to this time period, and they don't really know why or where they are, which is kind of funny because you basically know you're on Earth. Like they knew they were on Earth.
Jeff, you missed the best part of the episode, though.
What's the best part?
What about the call from Quark to
That
Cisco?
is an amazing part of the episode.
Yeah, okay. Well, we can talk about that. I was just kind of setting up the premise of the episode. I didn't realize we had to go into the Quark stuff.
Well, it's right up front. I was afraid we were going to miss it.
Break it down.
Well, Quark had to make an appearance here, and so yeah, after they get done talking about the oceans on Trill are purple and on Bajor they are green, which was an interesting thing, and that O'Brien was not going to be getting in his dress uniform because he's an enlisted man, so he's going to the pub. Yeah, this whole Quark subspace call where he has to talk about this deal about getting the Negus's like nephew out of like a prison or something, and then Sisko is like, they're continuing this relationship between Sisko and Quark here. He's like, hey, I know my rules of acquisition. I've been reading up, which was one was a fish cannot be freed from water.
Yep.
That's a rule of acquisition.
Makes sense.
It's funny how Sisko uses the rules against Quark, and it's funny that Sisko kind of like is kind of like showing like I know all about your culture and your rules, and kind of showing him up.
Loves it. Quark loves it.
Quark's like, oh my god, he's actually telling
So
me.
you should play Tongo.
Yeah. Okay, so that's when the transporter accident kind of happens, where O'Brien transports them down with Kira in the smallest transporter room in the history of transporter rooms.
I'm glad. I was about to mention that. We have to say that like the Defiant transporter room, does it not get bigger after this a little bit? Because I feel like in Trials and Tribulations, it's not this teeny tiny closet transporter that they had on here, because they're always trying to make us feel like the Defiant is really crammed, right? And it doesn't take that much effort.
But they're all standing on like the same pad, and it's just like.
The three of them just crammed in on this little small thing. Like, no social distancing possible.
And why did Bashir and Sisko end up in the same spot, but Dax ended up somewhere else?
Well, she just ended up she materialized like under where the stairs were instead. Like she just in terms of where they be
in one of the most unnatural ways to sit for some reason. Like
that must have been a tough scene for her to shoot because it seemed I agree, Kevin. It was the most awkward positioning because it's like, were you passed out? What's going on? And why are they passed out when they wake up?
That's a good question.
They traveled in time. That takes stuff out of you.
Oh yeah, the temporal chronotom particles messed with their blood sugar, and therefore there was a massive rush to their head, automatically knocking them out and dropping them to the floor. It's science. It's pure science.
The temporal
chronotons are like sleepy time tea.
You mean like this? This didn't feel natural?
It looks like she's posing to be painted, like.
Good thing this like Bill Gates type character walked by her at the right moment.
It actually looks like the entire scene is green screen except for her. Like
oh my gosh.
Wouldn't be surprised. So that's kind of how we start off after our beautiful intro credits. Yeah, we have this Bill Gates guy about to walk by her, and he's like, "Oh no, she's hot." Oh, all right.
That was the first social sort of lesson I got from this is if you're two dudes, you're going to the sanctuary. But if you're an attractive young woman, you're going to end up in high society.
It's not fair. Yeah. Even if you're
no, sorry, go ahead.
Even if you're a British charming doctor or you're like a leading man, like an Avery Brooks, it's not going to matter. But Terry Farrell, she got lucky. She got lucky that this guy walked by at the right moment.
Yeah, and this guy's like, "You don't have any ID? Like they'll like put you like with all the criminals and drug addicts. You know that, right?" And she's like, "What?"
and as the viewers were like, "What?"
Yeah, and he's like, "Where did you get those tattoos? Japan?" She's like, "You know what? Yes, Japan."
This guy's supposed to be our age. He went to high school in the 90s. He got the Maori tribal tattoo.
As everyone did in the 90s.
Everyone did. I had to get mine
nobody.
Goldberg.
Not everybody.
Get that barbed wire on your bicep.
Oh yeah, the barbed wire.
That was so 90s.
This was the first episode of 1995 too, Jeff.
Was it? Oh, okay.
We're out of 94. It's over.
This is January this came out? Okay.
January of 95 we are in. This is now the Voyager's hit too at this point.
When I first watched this episode, though, 2024 seems so far away.
Yes.
Like it's only so far in the future.
Yeah, I know. Now it's 3 years from now. It's literally they get there. It's August 30th, I believe, 2024.
Yeah.
So that is literally what
3 years.
So 3 years, 4 months away from now. It's not that long.
Not that long, and we're not that far from that either.
I just saw a report on Vice today about people, all like the 10 cities that are
10
building
cities,
up
yeah.
across the
Mhm.
United States, especially like in like Houston, but a bunch of cities.
Portland,
These
LA.
sanctuaries don't seem that fictionalized, because and we've done this kind of thing like in LA where like, you kind of concentrate people into certain neighborhoods and create like these skid rows and these like, these desolate places that are inescapable. And that it's going to have a boiling point.
We also had the Seattle, like where they did the Chaz thing or whatever, and this is kind of similar to that, where it's like
he says in the episode, every major city had one by this time. Well, it's true. Every major city does have one.
yeah, and it's you know what? It didn't take a rocket scientist probably in the 90s to predict that in 30 years things are going to be worse.
The guy was Stephen Bear. And Robert Hewitt Wolf. They were no rocket scientists, but they came up with the story.
But they were right, and it was a good guess. And it's kind of to the lore of Star Trek too. Whenever they talk about Star Trek, and not just in Star Trek, but lots of other fictional histories, when they talk about this time that we're living in right now, the 2020s or the early 21st century. It's always bad. It's always like wars, and it's always like
robots take over, viruses.
The 21st century is never a fun century.
No,
right?
It's never like progress, and we're getting to other planets, and
Back
we're
to the Future.
Back to the Future. Well, it's interesting you bring that up, Jamil, because like it's an interesting look at like looking ahead 30 years, because they made this in like even though it came out in 95 early, this was made in 94, so that's why 2024 is the year they picked. They're looking ahead 30 years, and if you compare that to like Back to the Future, which went from 85 to 2015, that's a pretty far out there 30 years. They were expecting a whole bunch of technological progress, some of which was just way out there, like flying cars. And
I disagree. Flying cars was not a far out there proposition.
Well,
what they failed to realize was how greedy our industries were to like slow us down. Right, we would have energy efficient vehicles long, like as a long placed item, but they're making a lot of money with gas, so why are we gonna rock the boat?
Just like war, war would be over if you didn't make money off of it, if it wasn't a racket.
We also already have flying cars. They're called helicopters.
Yeah.
Right, but okay, but 2015 didn't look like the 2015 were presented in Back to the Future.
Right.
And I think that this 30 years ahead is a little bit more realistic if you compare it to that. Even though it's a different media and like it's got a different tone to it. Obviously, Back to the Future.
This one is definitely more realistic because it's accurate.
It's this is more alternate in 1985.
This is like alternate 1985 where Biff is like married to Marty's mom and everything else. Like this is kind of like that. Because and this is a good lead into World War III, right? Because that is also the history of the Star Trek universe. Is that comes sometime in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like how old is Zefram Cochrane at this point?
Probably pretty young, right?
But he's around. He's kicking around.
What year is First Contact?
2063.
Okay, so yeah, he's probably.
And how old's he 20. In First Contact?
He's like 60, right?
Right. Okay, so you've just been born at this point, basically. Then we're saying, right?
So if I freeze myself, I can
Well, no, he'd be about 15, 20, maybe.
Yeah,
he's around. He's around.
He's in his 50s. I don't know. James Cromwell seems like he's in his 50s in that movie. So I would say that, yeah, he's in his 50s.
I'm more concerned about myself living to see the Federation than anything.
Right. Well, but what you might see, Jamil, is sanctuary districts and the high society talking about how awful everyone else is while they sip champagne. This is what's depicted in this episode, and it is fantastic because I do think they do a great job of explaining the disparity between rich and poor. Again, didn't need to be a rocket scientist to foresee that happening, but it's a great depiction of it in this episode. I think. I mean, it really, when you watch it, you go, "Oh yeah, they're onto something. Yeah, they're right. Yeah." Kevin and Ashley, what do you guys make of the Sisko explaining all of human history to Bashir? Bashir being confused. Bashir saying like, "I don't get it. We could have saved that man," and so, those type of scenes. What do you think?
Yeah, for a genius, he's not super smart.
No, he seems like playing the dumb.
He says history was never something he was interested in.
Yeah.
So
maybe he's a super smart, genetically enhanced man. He could learn about anything. He has to go to school. Like he has to take history at one point.
He went to Starfleet Academy. You would think that they would teach about the Bell riots at Starfleet Academy, or at least in
grade school.
At least like in high school or something. You think you'd learn about the Bell riots if that was the turning point for getting to where they are now.
Maybe it was the day he couldn't tell a dog from a house or whatever.
We learned we learned in history class in high school, we learned about wars that were like 300 years ago.
We learned about significant events that changed our society.
The course of history.
I love the part where Sisko goes, have you ever heard of the Bell riots? He just goes, vaguely.
Yeah.
I heard someone mention it, but did I actually follow up this conversation?
He only knows about tennis. That's the only thing he expresses interest in.
He knows about Bajoran music. He likes that.
Maybe he just didn't pay attention in school.
Or it couldn't lead to him getting a girl, so therefore that was a subject he didn't care about.
Maybe. Yeah. We also kind of all right. So what ends up happening is like we've mentioned before is Dax gets kind of taken away by high society. Bashir and Sisko get taken to be fingerprinted, ID'd, photographed, and then told there's nowhere for them to go except a sanctuary district where everybody is stuck. Basically, it's kind of a prison, really. And you get this surly old guard kind of.
I love him.
What do you guys make of the surly old guard, Jamil?
Vin? Good old Vin?
Vin.
Yeah, Vin is my friend.
Yeah,
Vin is like
Columbo?
Yes. Having Columbo on the case, it was great. I think this type of casting is just wonderful. This takes like a really good episode and makes it great. When you have him and another cameo we see later on. Wink, wink, wink. It's great. And if it was a lesser actor, it could have just been like old curmudgeon and just kind of forgettable. But there's just like a kind of charisma with such a simple character that he just brings forth that you actually do like. Please don't kill him, even though he's an asshole. I still want to see him still continue on.
Because he. That's the whole point, I think, is like Sisko's making to Bashir. It's like he's like they don't know they're doing wrong, and it's that, and they need to learn to care again. So basically, saying that humanity is at a point where they've lost the will to live. Basically, is what they're kind of talking about. And Bashir makes the point where he's like, "Then what makes us any better than Cardassians or Romulans?" And I feel like Sisko kind of goes like, well, there isn't. We're not better, you know?
Yeah, he kind of shrugs
Who
it
told
off.
you we were better?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, my job as a Starfleet officer is to make sure that it doesn't like sink into this kind of state, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that also the point there is that it's not easy. You have to fight for it all the time to kind of it can't be taken for granted. Maybe Bashir takes it for granted because he's just always lived this lifestyle and this in this kind of world, and he and Sisko maybe does appreciate that it was harder to get. He's more of a student of history. Bashir, lazy, only cares about tennis
and women
and he's good at biology and being a physician for the most part. He looks after this kid and he's like, no broken bones, you're good to go, just get some alcohol.
Maybe if there was a James Bond that dealt with political issues a little bit more, he would have cared about it.
I think Vin is one of the most important characters in this whole story. Yeah. I think he really illustrates the how good people can become really callous towards the poor,
Yes.
and mean even,
Yes.
even though they're good people.
And they're just
it's
doing
the
a
way the
job.
system is, right?
Yeah, it's the way the system is, and that's just what they feel like they need to do to protect themselves. And then we get in. Bashir makes the point where he's like, "This is just insanity, though." It's like,
Yeah.
It's like, why would humanity resort to this? Why not work together? He makes the point with somebody that he could have saved. He's like, we could have gotten him some help. He could have lived a fulfilled life, and something like that. And Cisco just kind of goes, yeah, but that's, we're not here to fix that. Okay, moving on, Bashir.
It's a different time, Bashir. Jesus Christ.
Bashir's like, we need a bath. We need a laugh. We need a
What a laugh.
What a laugh.
What a laugh. We need a bath.
There's another moment in this episode that I really, really love. I forget. I'm trying to find it. Basically, somebody comes up and offers something to Bashir, and Bashir starts like engaging with that person, and he's like, "Oh, okay." And Cisco grabs his arm and just like, "Get out of there!" He's like, "You're not doing this," He just grabs him. Yeah,
did you ever? He's trying to figure out how he became a Starfleet officer. This guy who doesn't know anything about history. It's just kind of aloof when he's on these missions. He's like, "What's happening?"
Well, we also, the other character, I think you're right. You're right about Vim, Kevin. But the other character is the lady they kind of have a conversation with when they first get to that. Her.
Yeah.
She is also another representation of how good people work in the system, and just see it as like they're doing a job, and this is the best. This is my advice. Look out for these people. But really is just like another cog in the wheel kind of.
She gets punished for helping out someone.
Yeah. Starts out with these great ideas and just, I want to help and I want to make a difference, and then just the longer you work in that job, you just become more and more jaded and just shuffle people through.
Yeah, and I think that she's another great character in this story. And it's a great performance. Jamil,
her name is Lee.
Is that her name? Lee. Okay. Jamil, what do you make of Lee?
She's a screamer.
She's a screamer. She gets scared, but don't take it out on her.
It was.
Yeah.
I was like, is Ashley taking notes for radio theater?
Yeah. I love Bashir. Bashir's like, I felt like he was gonna say, she's just acting badly. Don't take it on her. Just don't kill her. She's just a bad actor.
She calmed down after that sequence, but like that's like, I hope like I kind of worried, is there a worse take that they didn't take and that was the one they decided to keep? Because it was really jarring. That was a jarring type of sequence, but everything else seemed very fine and worked well, so it was kind of weird, just a weird choice for that sequence. Excellent. Once again, this is one of those episodes where I should say two-parter episode where each person more or less gets a time to shine, and Lee does as well. She gets to tell her part. She plays her part very well, and she acts very well against Bashir and Cisco, and even my dear friend DC.
BC.
Yeah. Huh? BC?
BC.
Yeah, Biddle. Good old Biddle.
Good old Biddle Coddle. Coolridge or whatever his name was.
Yes. I like Biddle.
Yeah, okay, so then
she's a public health official, by the way, too, according to the script. Although, and her name's never actually said in dialogue. It's just it was on the script. Her name is Lee.
Okay.
That's why we don't know her name.
Okay, another character I'm pretty sure we will know the name of is the guy with the hat that Cisco doesn't like. What's his name, Dave?
His name is
Biddle
Coolridge, the murderer of Gabriel Bell, if you will.
Yeah, stabbed him right in the back. Good actor. Another great bit of casting, I thought, for this role. I thought this guy did a great job being the antagonist of the episode, but then they had to work with. he's a ghost, and they had to work with him. The introduction to him too, where I think that this is the moment where it happens where they're beating up somebody and Bashir goes to interrupt, and this is where Sisko like holds him back in like the best way. It's like, it's great. He's constantly like grabbing him, he's constantly touching him, and he's constantly get away, stop engaging these people.
This actor is actually, his name is Frank Military, and he actually is not an actor, he's a writer. He was actually a writer for the shit show called Miami Vice in the 1980s.
Wait, the shit show? Are we just shitting on Miami Vice?
I said hit show.
Oh, I thought you said shit
Oh,
show.
I thought
Sorry.
he said shit show.
I heard shit show.
It's just a
I'm like, Dave, that's strong reaction to Miami Vice. That's a hot take.
I take on the Miami Vice.
I said hit show.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And he was
Okay.
also involved with CSI and Superboy and the X-Files.
So he's not an actor because he
No.
does an excellent job in this
Yeah.
episode.
No, he's
Not really
great.
an actor.
Wow.
How did he get this role then? This is a kind of a substantial
That's
role.
a meaty role. Yeah.
Yeah.
For a 2-part episode of Star Trek?
Yeah,
He
must have just wowed them.
Yeah, he must have wowed them in the audition. They're like, we gotta get this guy. And then he was like, you know what, whatever, I'm done with this acting thing.
I'll see if he was in anything else. I'm gonna
Or
look him up here.
He knows the writers of Star Trek because he's a writer, and that's just how he is. And they were like, "Hey, we have this role that's perfect for you," like
Might
Chris
have,
in the
yeah.
Packlets.
Right. Might have worked. Yeah,
Chris Seymour.
maybe. And
If only the writers knew about Chris Seymour.
it just goes to like, I was listening to Tim Dillon. He's like, acting's not hard. You just got to go out there and say things. And the more we do radio theater, the more I'm like, yeah, maybe, you know, maybe it isn't as hard as people make it out to be.
He's done.
Don't tell Mike that. That's his profession.
Well, I'm sure he would say it's doable. Anybody could do it.
Okay.
Well, since 1995, he's done 4 other acting appearances, including CSI, Windfall, and NCIS. But it's been like he does something every like 6 years.
It's time to keep his ACTRA card, I guess.
Yeah, just so he can keep his card going.
Yeah, to keep that union money flowing. Okay, my favorite part of this episode, and you guys are gonna laugh, is when Sisko brings Bashir an egg and toast breakfast.
That's your favorite part?
It's my favorite part of this episode because it's so ridiculous. Bashir is sleeping in an alcove, and Sisko's just walking through the streets of San Francisco with a piece of bread and some eggs on a plate, and he's like, "Here you go." Like he literally went to go get it for him.
He's like, "No utensils, no napkins."
No,
Sorry.
yeah, here you go. Eat it up with your hands. Let's go.
Also, did Sisko eat his on the way back? Like, why didn't he have any?
That's what he goes. They ran out of utensils and napkins, and
He used all the utensils. He used the napkins.
yeah,
He's
he
like,
used them all. He had 2 sets of each. He used them anyway.
There was
He's
there was actually more food on Bashir's plate, and he ate that on the way back, and was like, all they
Yeah.
had was 1 piece of bread and some eggs.
Yeah,
This is like a whole bacon and
Yeah,
sausage
he ate
thing.
Yeah,
it. There was like
there
a
was a whole-
donut. He ate it.
there was a whole platter, a whole spread. It was like, it's not that bad here.
I'm sure sees everyone else eating it later. They say, "Why did I get that stuff?" He's like, Sisko just shrugs.
He's like, I'll get us a bed tomorrow night. We'll be living the life of Riley.
Sausage are for closers, Bashir.
Okay, then we get a scene where Sisko and Bashir meet. I think he's the guy from Billy Madison. Is that the same actor? I don't know. He's
Webb?
he's
talking
been in
about
a lot of
Michael
he's
Webb?
been in a lot of Star Trek. I know that, right? This guy that they meet in the Sanctuary District. Yeah, this guy
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's been in Star Trek a lot of times. I know. I've seen it. His
Yeah,
face is
he's-
super familiar.
He's been in Next Gen for sure.
His name is Bill Smitrovich. He's only played this role in Star Trek.
No way, really?
He just has a face.
He
just-
looks
He's
so
in something
much
else
like,
that I-
yes, like
How many
someone-
times was he in Babylon 5, Dave?
Yes.
I'm gonna see if he was on Babylon 5. I don't think he was. No Babylon 5. Okay.
But Dave swears he wanted to be.
He's most
This-
known for the movie Air Force One, where he played General Northwood.
Okay.
He was also in the movie called Ted, which is the
Right.
Seth MacFarlane, Mark Wahlberg movie. He played Frank.
Oh, never seen it.
Oh, he was in Independence Day.
He was Captain Watson in Independence Day.
Mm.
He worked on some Miami Vice. Hit show Miami Vice.
Shit show. Okay, so yeah, what ends up happening is like he brings them in and to see this kid. Bashir checks him out. Turns out no broken ribs. Cuts are superficial, and then our guy here goes up the stairs to go to get the alcohol. I'm like, geez, he's trusting.
Wait, I got questions. About
Yeah.
this. Okay, first of all, like they had this whole part where they couldn't get into any of the buildings because everyone's like, "Don't come in here, we're all full," and you gotta sleep in the ground, right, or in the little
Right.
the alley there in between the buildings. And then they said, "Well, what are you gonna trade?" And then they traded what, their Starfleet uniforms? Is that what they traded?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but why is that? If they're a little cleaner,
Pajamas.
their pajamas.
They must have thought that, well, those are clean and they look pretty comfy.
Yeah. Okay, I got more questions. What happened to those uniforms? Do you think that futuristic technology can be dropped back in 2024 without, consequences?
What happened to their comm badges? Dax has her comm badge, but what happened to their two comm badges?
Vin took them.
Vin, and then he became the next Steve Jobs of the 21st century.
Yeah, Vin and Bernardo.
Yeah. And then that's why we had the,
all that stuff got left in the past.
Yes.
Yeah, it got left in the past. Okay, guys, I have a question for you. Do you guys subscribe to whatever happened, or diverting the timeline? Those are the two.
It was diverting because it was clearly changing the present, which we haven't even touched on at all. Which is like the present story was all Kira, Odo, and O'Brien, which I guess is kind of like they have to they're on the rescue mission throughout this two-parter.
I kept waiting for O'Brien to try to sell her to somebody.
Do you like what you see?
She's not my wife, but she's a wonderful lady.
Yes.
There's actually
I broke my nose.
There's actually a moment that they have, the two of them, when that reminded me of that episode where they go the Lee Nollis episode.
Right.
When he's like, who would be crazy enough to do, or she would said, we just need to find people crazy enough to do that. And he's like, I could think of a couple of people. It's kind of like when she was like, hey, when we go on this mission, we're either coming back with Lee Nollis or we're not coming back. Right. So they're kind of kindred spirits, the two of them. They do. They say the Cardassians. They understand each other.
Yeah, they definitely do. They're like, and they're like definitely full about the mission. Like they're very dedicated soldiers, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what they are. And I do think that's why they look at each other and sometimes go, yeah, you want to do this? And they're like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, let's do this.
Travel through time. Okay, I don't care if we get stuck in time. Screw it. Keiko, Molly, they're on Bajor anyway. What do I care?
The only thing Kira was upset about was she was going to look stupid with that thing on her nose.
That was the biggest problem.
Yeah, that's the only way Bajorans are different. The nose.
Well, here was my only problem really with this whole two-parter and this whole storyline, which I think is kind of interesting. Okay, the Defiant comes home, and this whole Deep Space Nine, they brought Odo and Kira just for kicks, right? Even though I guess it's to talk about the founders, fine, but it removes the crew from the station. It's one of these very few parters where we don't deal with the station at all. We don't, other than this call from Quark. And so when this happens, when this whole time travel thing and they don't materialize in San Francisco, it's like we don't see them even talking to, we hear them, it's said in dialogue, oh, I was talking to the Admiral and the Admirals are trying to figure this out. It doesn't feel like a big enough deal considering they're at Earth and they got like Starfleet headquarters and all of that resources at their disposal.
Yeah, they spent the budget on tense spat garbage and fire, and the egg breakfast that they had to feed Bashir. They didn't have the budget to show us like Star Trek Picard did when like 1,000 ships all warped in at once. You know, I don't. That wasn't in the cards in 1994.
Right, because you could give this story to also like the TNG cast, right? You can say, "Oh, the Enterprise came home, and we passed by this anomaly last week, and now it made us time travel or whatever." That is explained away here by O'Brien in this episode. Is ridiculous. Oh well, I guess it has to do with the wormhole. We went by the wormhole, and then we went by this thing, and this made us temporally unstable, and now our transporter.
We went by the plot device, and it caused us to have this episode.
By the way, when they finally reveal, like, hey, guess what? Earth's not there anymore. Everything's gone. The timeline's been changed about the time that they're showing us Gabriel Bell dying. Everybody else on that bridge is way too calm. They're all pushing their buttons and their little panels. But I'm like, hey, what's that? What's that you said across the room, Brian? That everyone I know is gone, and I like the entire timeline's been altered forever. That's a big deal. That's a Tuesday,
man. That's a Tuesday.
That's just a Tuesday.
O'Brien and Kira, they're like, whatever. This is whatever.
Odo looks worried.
Yeah. They're like, we can fix this. What happened to the transporter, O'Brien? Well, there was some quanton levels that made them transport to one of 12 different timelines. You want to go find?
Better coming from the science officer, but she's not here. So
yeah, she's not here. She's hanging out with high society.
She's out there with whatever that guy's name was.
Bell? Not Bell.
Christopher Brenner. She's out. Yeah, she's hanging out with Christopher Brenner, the new Goodwin.
Was this just the case of like, Cisco Bashir, you guys don't mind wearing all the dirty clothes, Dax? We'll give you some nice clothes. You don't gotta go spend the 2 weeks in the shit filming this episode.
What's Dave's opinion on the clothes, the outfits for Dax?
I think all the costumes are pretty. They're fine. Like I think what's the stuff that stands out as weird is more like actually Vin's costuming. With like the weird eagle symbol thing, like
with an A on it, and I think it has some sort of a badge as well.
It reminds me actually of the uniforms they wear in original series at all of the like mental institutions and stuff.
Right. Yeah, it feels a bit original series, like some of this emblem, like she wears it too here.
It kind of looks like also like in Lost when they're in the Dharma Initiative, with
the jumpsuits.
The jumpsuits, yeah, they're wearing like the full brown jumpsuit.
Yeah, it's just kind of here you can see these jumpsuits they got here. The boots.
They look like Ghostbusters.
They do, yeah, that's exactly what they look like. Ghostbusters.
They just need a proton pack.
Don't cross the streams.
Yeah, this is
eat your eggs and don't cross the streams.
So I don't love these jumpsuits at all. I don't think that's what the police officers would wear. But I think that the other clothing, like what do we got? Like this guy's suit and everything is fine.
This smile's creeping me out though. I don't know about you guys.
This is Dax's type. It's
too big for his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much else really, but. I think like I especially like Bashir's hoodie.
Yes. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah. Bashir's hoodie is the star of this episode. Cisco's overalls, close second.
Cisco in his overalls and everything else, like with Cisco looks very much like a hero, like a
Biddle's hat for me.
It's all about the hat. He doesn't like the hat.
I know, but
like the hat.
He's like, "How do you like my hat? Like this or like this?" And then Cisco uses the gun to prop it back up. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that was awesome."
He's like,
and I love the line. It's your head.
That's such a great line.
That's in part 2. Okay, so was there like there's this whole part 1 thing. Mm-hmm. Do you guys want to rate part 1 and part 2, or do you want to talk about part 2 sort of separately, or is it all just blending together?
It's all blended together for me.
It is one story, but all right, like the first episode ends on the cliffhanger, sort of, where Cisco is Gabriel Bell now. He's like, I'm taking on the identity because he just got stabbed in the back, and so the history, the whole idea that they're trying to write history here because Gabriel Bell was a huge pivotal moment, and if he's not there to do what needs to be done, then history will have changed. So
is this plausible that Cisco could just assume this guy's identity for like 3 days and get away with it? Like,
I mean, I guess it worked out.
Cared.
Nobody cared, and he does look enough like him. I think
real
they have,
Gabriel
yeah, like they're both black men with no beard or anything. They have, like they have a similar look, to them. There's no.
They all look the same, Jeff. They all look the same.
No, that's all look the same. But I think you could mix them up. That's all I'm saying.
This guy and this guy.
But yeah, I think maybe. Like, I think if you didn't know who Gabriel Bell was, and you were like,
he fits the description. That's what you're
I
saying?
don't know. They have very different haircuts. I would say I would start there.
Well, he does have a bit more hair. I would agree. The real Gabriel Bell has a bit more hair.
Black male hair.
Yeah, he's got a bit more hair.
Hobo clothing.
Okay, well, I was maybe somebody knew Gabriel Bell. He's looked like a man who maybe met somebody in his life, and maybe somebody would miss him, and
I think they casted that Gabriel Bell guy because he looked a lot like Avery Brooks. I do. I think they wanted that. I think they wanted that in the story.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you, Jeff.
I wouldn't say he was a dead ringer for him.
They didn't cast a guy with a big beard. You know what I mean? Like,
no, they got the facial hair part right,
or or Cisco, what he's gonna look like in like one season where he's.
I don't think they would have cast this guy to be his stunt double.
I think they could have. They just would have had to get him to shave his hair.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
his hair's a little long. I agree.
A trauma film where you obviously it's a different dude. Oh my god!
I'm not trying to say it's because they're black. I'm just saying that.
No, you're not trying to say.
No, I'm not saying. If there were two white guys, if this had been like Dave was saying, a TNG episode, and Picard, it was a guy that looked like Picard, sort of. It was an old man. I would have been like, I would have said the same thing.
Bald man,
white, bold, bald man.
Description. We're looking out APB for a white, bald man, old.
Yes, old, bald. He speaks with a British accent, but he has a French name.
Look for him. Yes, that's more descript than you gave to the late Gabriel Bell.
Well, I don't know much about Gabriel Bell. We only get him for like 2 minutes in this episode, and he gets stabbed in the back trying to help somebody.
At BC.
I think the point is that because they were in the sanctuary district and stuff it's not like there was a lot of pictures and they were just put in there and forgotten about. That
they didn't have ID anyway, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he had a photo card.
He could have swapped, just swap them out for anyone and no one's really going to notice.
But if Gabriel Bell had been like a young white guy, I don't think Cisco would have done this. He would have made Bashir do it. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Okay, but in the timeline that they came from, right? Before this whole time travel story happened, like the real Gabriel Bell was the one who saved those hostages.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
But now But now
so you subscribe to not whatever happened, that they're changing the time.
There was no counterpart for Bashir there. Okay. And then, right? In the original timeline?
No.
Bashir wasn't there.
Yeah.
But this time he is there. So this time he has this conversation with Lee. He shapes events. So the outcome of this would have been probably mostly the same, but it stands to reason like she might have been affected a little bit differently. Obviously, Vin and Bernardo are affected and changed by this experience in the way they
Of course they changed history. It's Cisco's picture in the in the and they even bring that back when Nog is studying human history, which I love. They bring that back.
Yeah.
And he's like, doesn't this look like Cisco?
Yeah. Looks just like him.
So the thing that takes me the most out of this, not the swapping of the Cisco and Gabriel Bell characters, is that pull up that picture of Gabriel Bell again, the real Gabriel Bell.
Oh, the real Gabriel Bell, please stand up.
He's supposed to be 37. He was
How
born
old-
in 1987.
He's 2 years older than me.
37 years old.
He's
He
got some
looks
city
like
miles.
He's got some
In-
city miles on him there,
Yeah.
Gabriel Bell. Yeah, for sure.
Living in the sanctuary. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. It says born April 24th, 1987, died September 3rd, 2024. Known as the father of Earth's postmodern reformism, Bell galvanized the he's the father of postmodern reformism. Bell galvanized the people and government of the United States of America when he led an uprising in San Francisco's Sanctuary District.
So what about like Webb? Where's Webb's due,
You think-
man?
well, Webb seems like he's actually more significant than Bell.
Yeah.
Why aren't they called the Webb riots?
Yeah. It's a good question.
Well, they can't say who the Webb tolls for, you know.
The Bell
But-
toes.
In the original, like it was called the Bell Riots when Cisco was talking about it. Maybe Webb had nothing to do with it at that point, and the only reason he got involved this time around was because Bashir had helped his son.
That's possible because we see here that Cisco is the one who's able to kind of bridge the gap between the ghosts and the gimmies in this version of history, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, he's able to kind of get BC to sort of calm down, even though he watched BC kill the real Gabriel Bell. He still like works with them and he kind of negotiates this loose alliance among the people. And how much of this is Cisco is doing because he's read history, he knows the real Gabriel Bell maybe did some of these things, because his main job here is to just try to make sure that history plays out as much as possible as it did the first time,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
From whatever he
Right.
he knows.
but Dave, they make almost zero attempts to find Dax. Even they really don't. They don't really have the ability to, I guess.
they never have a chance. They're always at a disadvantage.
Yes, and Dax is trying to find them, but it's kind of like she's trying to pretend to be somebody she's not at the same time, so it's difficult for her.
Mhm.
What did she do? She hacked into the system and she stole somebody else's identity.
Yeah,
I
well, that's
guess.
what the rich guy did that for her. Yes,
Well, she kind of
Mm.
did it on her own.
No.
Yeah,
well,
she did
sort
it
of.
On her own.
She did it on her own. He just provided her access.
Right.
And
That's what I meant.
some credits.
Yeah.
Right, which is what I meant by help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we think that Cisco really disliked Biddle or had some compassion for him?
I think he had compassion for the entire situation. I think he like it's Bashir who's kind of asking like, why is it like this? And he gets it. He knows why, and he knows why people are desperate and what it brings out in people. I don't think he necessarily blames the person, but the situation or the atmosphere. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, I find that Cisco in this episode treats him still with kid gloves, like more than he would in a normal situation.
Well,
guess.
I think considering his actions, because he not only had he been like this bully character and whatever, an intimidator, but he was all this fight broke out and the Gabriel Bell. He didn't really have to kill Gabriel Bell. He just does it because he's mad at him for jumping in. And then 10 minutes later, Cisco has to work with him as sort of. I guess he's the leader of the ghosts, and there's more ghosts around. So BC sort of represents all of them, that are there.
Yeah,
It's,
because
you
they
know,
can't.
They can't all have speaking roles.
They need a representation.
And BC at the very least is rational in some respects. Who's to know if you get rid of him, the next person to step up is going to be one that you can even negotiate with or kind of, work with it all. So
The devil,
it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the second part of this story is this whole hostage situation. It's mostly inside of this one place, right? This
The bottle episode that they've kind of like we've used up the sets for the first episode, but now we need to do the bottle episode.
Because the first episode's moving, right? It's moving, it's jumping around, we're going around, and then we get into the second hour, and it's really like it's slower, it's more contained, it's more tense, it's the past tense of it all. Okay.
We got to get a sound.
I'm here all week.
David, anytime you make a pun of the title of the episode, you have to play some sort of stupid sound bit.
What kind?
I don't know, like Wafu or something. It might deserve a Wafu.
Okay, I'll play something. I'll play something random here.
Damn it! We just can't leave her here!
Jennifer! Okay, so the second episode is slower. I agree. Do you guys like the second episode? Do you like the first one more? Or do you just look at it as one episode?
To me, it's just one episode.
It's one episode.
Well, it's still two to me because there's this cliffhanger, and when this aired a week apart, right? So there is like an end to the first part, and then it's like and the conclusion. So if I was picking this up, I think if you want to look at the episodes as separate hours, yeah, I feel like it stands apart to me that no other Star Trek episode is quite like this, even for a two-parter, because it's a hostage situation. I can't think of another Star Trek episode quite like it. Where the Starfleet officers are the captors, right? They are the rioters here, and they're holding people against their will.
This episode is just, to me, screams the original series. You know, it has, you know, odes to me to Far Among
Forever,
City on the Edge of Forever, and yeah, like to me, this is kind of what it's their version of that episode. To me,
without the romance.
Well, yeah, there's no romance.
That would be, Dax and the Dutch Jedzir, the Dutch Jedzir Dax with what is his name? Jeffrey Brenner or Chris Brenner?
Yeah, like to me, Deep Space Nine made a conscious effort to like go back to tropes of the original series, where TNG tried hard to ignore them,
distance themselves from it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so Deep Space Nine got to do a lot of things that were, like I said, odes or homages to what the original series did really well in certain episodes. And one of them was City on the Edge of Forever. And this one is kind of, to me, trying to drive home the same points, but without the romance story. They have a bit of that with Dax, but
it's not really, it's more of a friendship because they never really have a romance, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more of an acquaintance thing.
Yeah.
And in this version of history, he lost his license, but his ratings skyrocketed. You know, so whether on that question, like, is what happened? How did they, in the original version of history, did they hack out into the system and broadcast their side of the story from the rioters? Because that was a pivotal part of the Bell riots. And Sisko doesn't really know. He's like, I guess the real Gabriel Bell figured it out.
Yeah,
and I guess that's what happened, but they have no such luck here.
I think that's what they do with Gabriel Bell. They make a conscious effort to show you that he was a good person in the moment that they show us that he was going to help somebody, defend somebody, and that's the type of person he was. And I think that's why it's a pivotal moment. You know, like when he gets killed, it's like Sisko explains, it's a very pivotal moment where they start remembering to care again, the humanity, and it kind of starts in America, because America is very much, kind of a beacon of popular culture, and I think
Gabriel Bell never poisoned an entire planet. He was a good dude.
No, he would have beat up Benjamin Sisko for even attempting to do that. But you know what, Worf, he just gave a nod and went, okay. That's what happened on that day. What about what's this actor's name that looks crazy? He's been in a lot of things. The bald guy.
Yeah, I don't.
Yes, Dave, you're reading my mind. How did you know?
He's great.
This is Clint Howard.
It's Clint Howard's Ron Howard's brother.
Oh, is that who it is?
Bryce Dallas Howard's uncle.
Oh, let's not. Okay,
it's not good when like Ron Howard got the good-looking genes in your family.
He's a classic Star Trek alumni.
Yeah, he goes back to, he was Baylock.
Yeah.
In the Corbett maneuver, and he was in Star Trek Discovery as well. He was an Orion.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of stuff. Yeah, he's okay. So, but he's one of the dims.
My friend, I hope you'd relish.
He's a good character actor for sure.
Yes.
After Dax was busy crawling through the sewers, it's kind of badass. She comes through the sewers, she pulls off this thing, she's walking down throughout the sanctuary district, but then you see Clint Howard creeping behind her. Next thing you know, they're bringing her in. So I guess he got the jump on her or something because
When
we
she
don't.
got grabbed, he probably just grabbed the thing off and ran off.
Yeah, he got her comm badge, and they have to go back. And there's this whole scene where Bashir and Dax have to go talk to him.
If you were laying out the episode, you wouldn't include that scene.
No, this I was like, did they owe him a favor? Did they need to get him into this show? Because this feels like this was like a filler scene. Like maybe they didn't have enough.
It may seem like it doesn't fit, or like it's because they resolve it really quickly. Like, but I think what they're trying to do is to really show that these sanctuary districts are full of people who need mental help. Like they need help. They're not.
Yeah.
It's not just criminals, and it's not just a bad place. It's that people that really need help are there. So they do these kind of like they make everybody, even Biddle, they make everybody kind of relatable, right? Like they all have good in them.
They all have a desperate feeling in them too, because they're in a situation of desperation. And any human can sympathize for somebody who's desperate. Yep. But sometimes desperation turns people into violence or turns people to criminal behavior. So that's why like in this whole idea of putting them all in a Skid Row section and just letting them live amongst themselves is not productive and is not a good way to go about things.
But what's Star Trek saying? What are they trying to say was the solution, or is the answer? Is that we have to remember to care about each other again. Seems to be the message.
Yep.
And we have to care about creating jobs for the people who don't have them. Is also seems to be what the message is.
Also, not everybody can do a job, and not everybody can support themselves. And I think they're making the point that, like Kevin just said it, that these people just need help. And
just because you were dealt that hand doesn't mean you deserve to live in a tent.
Right. And Bashir makes the point as well as that we have all the capabilities, all the supplies enough to help these people, yet we don't. That's kind of what the point he's making. And I think everybody needs to be woken up to that reality when they walk by a homeless person or a tent city. I think everybody needs to understand that this could be you tomorrow, and then it's just another person walking, but it'll be another person just like you walking by and not giving a shit.
Yeah. I think it's also like just watching some of that report today on like the 10 cities and what it's done to some neighborhoods in the States and things like that, and you're kind of like, oh, this is not. You can't really solve this in any kind of major sweeping action or policy. It just doesn't quite work like that.
Why not? Why not? What do you mean?
Well, you can have certain policies like will help, but really you have to help people kind of individually, almost one at a time, but or get groups or get like forces out to help people on a very more
The problem with helping people is it doesn't make money. It costs money, and that's why it doesn't happen.
But it's also about just quality of life and
Yeah, but that's why when people get so upset of why tax dollars are going to help these people who are leeching off the system and all that kind of crap.
No, more accurately, it doesn't make money in the short term, but it would make money in the long term.
Correct.
I would think so. But it never seems to be worth the initial investment to the government.
Yeah.
What about prosperity and just happiness? The pursuit of happiness, shouldn't this be really?
Misery breeds money too.
Yep.
Because
war.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to know more about the Ferengi. Do they have poverty and things like that, or is everybody taken care of?
Well, Quark goes on that long diatribe about how Ferengi are better than humans, so maybe not.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Like, are there like welfare and safety net situations in like their society? Because they're super capitalist.
I would doubt that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would imagine you just end up dying, and if you're Ferenginar, if you're poor,
they go full Spartan. They just throw you off a cliff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
They probably have like servitude, so you'll probably make a deal to be like a worker in someone's bar or someone's business for like 20 years for like to make up your debt, right?
Somebody will make a deal with you.
Yeah. There's a
But-
deal to be made. It'll just be very disadvantageous. You'll be at a disadvantage majorly. Like they're not going to cut you a deal and help you out.
Right. But that doesn't happen
Um,
in human society. So.
The other thing I kind of wanted to
Isn't
bring
it?
Maybe.
The other thing I kind of wanted to bring up here that I have the second episode especially have some parallels to, and I think was on the minds of probably the writers and the actors at the time, is the Waco siege. I think the Waco siege kind of in the second part when they bust in. That only happened like a year before this episode was filmed. I think they saw kind of like where policing was going and what protests, and those type of things. I think were on their mind. So I thought I'd bring that up. Okay, so anything else, guys, that you guys want to kind of get into here? I know, Dave, who was the other actor that you were mentioning that's like Vim's right-hand man?
Well, this guy, Bernardo is his name.
Bernardo with the family.
Bernardo with the family.
Bernardo with
Yeah,
the family.
Bernardo with the family is his name. His character is Bernardo Calvera. He's just kind of he's the young cop in the Ghostbuster jumpsuit. He had his wife Sonia and children. We got to see the picture. But maybe more interesting than him, before we maybe get into the fun facts, is just like what about all the stuff with Bashir and O'Brien going through the time periods?
It's Kira and O'Brien. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They go to the
Sorry, Kira and
70s.
O'Brien,
Yeah, they go to the 70s. Where else do they go? They go anywhere else?
1940s.
Oh,
40s,
40s.
yeah.
Right. 1940s. Is that it? And then they end up somewhere else.
They also go to the year 2048, but they don't show us that. But that was the alternate 2048 where
It's a
things had gotten
hellscape.
which was a hellscape. But I would have liked to have seen that. How bad
Yeah.
did it get in 2048 in this other version where the Bell riots go differently?
Yeah, they definitely missed an opportunity to show that. That would have been cool.
3-parter.
No, they don't have a good track record with the 3-parters.
No.
Kira flies
The
back to
Bajoran
Bajor.
trilogy is not beloved. Is that what you're trying to say?
Kira flies back to Bajor to see what's happening there.
But I was Vedic Barile.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know where else kind of to go with this episode. I feel like we've kind of talked about a lot of the main themes.
Who were
I
better,
think
Jeff? The 99 Yankees or the 15 Kings?
The 99 Yankees.
They talked about it. Yeah.
Oh, did they
We're
talk
talking
about that?
two yeah.
Right. Oh, there is a great moment too where they go, "You a football guy? That's a nice tackle you did there." He goes, "Baseball, actually."
I wouldn't want to be the catcher if
Yeah.
I was going into home plate or whatever he says. To him.
Right. Which
I'm
I do
more
think.
into tennis.
I
Are
do-
you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who says that in any
Get out of
situation?
here. Just walk away.
If you are nowhere near a tennis court, you should never say that.
Yeah, tennis is the only play. A tennis court is the only place to like tennis. You can't. No bar.
Well, let's talk some tennis. Who knows
Yeah.
Wimbledon?
Yeah,
Clay
you wanna talk
courts.
about- Yeah, it's all about the grass courts on Wimbledon. What a laugh!
What a law!
See you in
It's
the
all
bar.
about the clay. It's all about the clay, dude.
Uh,
Clay
yeah.
courts, man.
Clay courts. Well, Nadal always wins on the clay court. I'm a Spaniard for that. Yeah. I do think that moment where he says, "Oh, like the catcher thing" or whatever. I think that moment's really important because it shows that like even this desperate guy that's turning into criminal that killed Gabriel Bell was bonding with Cisco. Even you know.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important in the episode for sure.
BC he dies though, right?
Yes.
BC
Yes.
he dies.
He gets shot.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say is watching this about, I don't know, how long ago did you watch this for the first time? Maybe 6 months ago? Watching this with Ashley for the first time was awesome because we finished that episode. She went, "Wow, did they ever nail that? Like, that's already going on."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that feels like that could be America in 3 years.
It kind of already is, I
Yeah.
mean, because in August 2024, September, there'll be an election in 2 months from from this time of this episode. So yeah, well, I wonder if Joe
find out who
Biden,
the governor of California, is too, because they play
who's going to be the governor of California and who's going to be the president of the United States at that time. Because
by the way, the cop from the San Francisco Police Department who's like the negotiator, right, for their end. Like some of this was painful for me because like there's this whole scene where she's like talking to, I guess, the governor or whatever. He's like, well, I don't know if we should go in or not. But there's like this guy who's standing next to her who's clearly an extra and is not allowed to speak, right? Or is, and she's just like, I can't do it. I don't know what to do. And she's just like doing all this acting and he's just like, and she's like, I guess we're gonna have to go in. We're gonna have to send in the SWATs, and it's gonna, whatever. It's just he's just like, okay, bye. He just like he walks up and says nothing. It's just like, oh my god.
They killed Gabe, and then also with they shot Cisco, the police, and then they come in and they're like, our orders, blue team leader, our orders were to clear the building, pacify the building. That's what he used, pacify the building, which means basically kill everybody in the building.
Yeah. And this is what changes Vin's like, what the hell? You could have got us all killed too.
Yeah, Vin's like, tell him to stop shooting. He's like, do I look dead to you? That's a great line in the episode.
No way, Vin. You don't look dead.
You certainly did a good job. Cisco's okay. They kind of get out of there. Then what happens? Then we kind of get Vim looking badass outside with the shotgun, and then they see all these dead people in the street. They're like, oh yeah, this is kind of messed up. He goes, how could we let this happen? That's what Vim says.
Yeah.
And then Bashir says, the question is, how do we stop it from happening again?
That's
the theme.
Question.
That's the theme of the episode.
Bashir knows what's going on.
That's why they told me history was important. I didn't want to believe them.
Yeah, that's literally like the exact reason to study history. And he's like, oh, I've learned from Cisco. Okay. So these two guards are like, you know what? We're going to fix this world. You're right, Bashir. We got to get out of this world. Fix things.
My last name is Mario. Your last name is Mario, and we're the Mario Brothers. They have their jumpsuits.
Yeah. You're Venkman. I'm Ray.
It turns into a 93 Mario Brothers movie.
By the way, when Cisco brought him that piece of bread and the eggs, he calls him Julian. It's the only time I've ever seen him call him Julian, I think, in the entire show.
Because he stole the man's food. That's why, and he felt bad.
That was the only time. He
was in a good mood. He had just had a full turkey dinner.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, you know what? Bashir will be happy for me just bringing him some scraps without a utensils.
Yeah. Here you go, Julian.
There you go, Julian. I don't
they were serving really great food, and he was like, no, that's too good for my friend. You just have bread and eggs.
Yeah.
We have it from yesterday.
Bread and eggs.
We have some beautiful croissants. Do you want these croissants? No. He
like, hey, do you want these napkins and utensils? Nope. They don't have. You don't have anymore. Just tell them that.
One single slice of bread, not even two, just one.
Just one. Don't even toast it.
Don't toast it. Make it even damp. Damp it. Spray it with some water.
It was damp. The eggs were dry and the bread was damp. But the turkey dinner was divine.
Yeah. And Bashir's like, it was the best meal I ever had. He called me Julian.
Oh my gosh.
And then Julian brings him the pad at the end. He's like, hey, you really were Gabriel Bell.
Doctor, who created this virus? The Bajoran side.
But isn't that so Bashir? He finally looks up something about history because he was a part of it.
Yeah. It's like I was there. So
he just wants to see if he gets mentioned.
He can use it to pick up some women.
That's right. Yeah. Look.
He's like, I have another opening story instead of my graduation story. Yeah.
Second in my class.
My class.
That's the key to nailing Julian Bashir. You just pronounce A's as Oz.
Oz. Yeah.
Jeff, hit me some double F.
FF, man.
Some double F.
Dave, new theme song?
I don't have a theme song, but I do have clips, maybe. I don't know what to play.
But that's impossible because all shops and businesses have been closed until further notice.
Except, of course, for essential station operations.
For which this...
That's not a good clip.
Essential workers. Thank you.
Okay, here we go with some fun facts. My name is Gabriel Bell, and I'm here to give you as many fun facts as you can take. Ira Steven Bear's inspiration to create the Bell Riots was the 1971 riot in New York's Attica prison, which is what Oz is based on, the TV show Oz, which was caused primarily by inmates' demands for more humane living conditions being continually ignored by the authorities. So that's kind of where, yeah, so that makes sense. I never thought about that, but that you know what, kind of watching. You know, a lot of the people that went to Oz look like they came from a sanctuary district. Every time they show them like a clip in Oz, like this guy, 12 years, and it's like
looks everybody on Oz is like from Law and Order.
Yeah, oh yeah, that too. Okay, this is the first episode of the series to feature Earth.
This is the first time Deep Space Nine's come to Earth.
That's right, and they will be back. They go see Grandpa Sisko quite a few times,
and Changeling O'Brien, which is one of my favorites.
Yes, Changeling O'Brien is one of the best. He's the best. Can't wait to get to that scene.
Nog, Quark, and Rom. That one's fun.
The working title of this episode was Cold and Distant Stars. The original teleplay was written by Robert Hewitt Wolfe. Involves Sisko going back in time and ending up homeless. His claims that he was actually from the future and was the commander of a space station prompted those around him to think he was insane, and he is eventually given Thorazine. The script was written by Wolfe as a commentary on the apathy of the people of the 20th century towards the homeless. However, nobody was very happy with the script, including Wolfe himself, until Bear came up with the idea of the sanctuary districts and the Bell Riots. Later on, the concept of a Starfleet officer becoming stranded in the past and ending up homeless would be used in Star Trek Voyager's Future's End.
With Captain Braxton.
You go ahead, call them.
Well, also, it sounds a lot like some of the other episodes with Sisko going back, right? Like it's in that vein anyway.
You cannot destroy
he doesn't go back. He's not homeless, but...
Yeah.
I created it, and it's real.
And it's real. Yeah, this episode does feel a lot like Far Beyond the Stars, for sure.
Yeah,
in some ways, yeah. There's some parallels there.
And especially that the original teleplay that they written seems a lot like Far Beyond the Stars.
Yeah.
I think that. Sorry, just to interrupt you, but I think there's something to be said about how a Starfleet captain deals with a time travel situation. How Kirk deals with them, how Picard dealt with them, and the few times he did it, like in Time's Arrow. And in this one for Sisko, and Sisko becomes like a history teacher for Bashir. He's like, here, I'm going to break this all down for you on why and how we got through all this, right? You, Bashir, you friggin' spoiled.
He literally grabs him so many times in this episode. He's like grabbing him. He's get over here, and he's like, ugh.
Yeah, he's basically like, if you don't stay with me, you're going to die here.
Yeah. Yeah, he's treating him like he's like 12 years old, and he's like, do not leave my side. And if you leave my side, don't do anything stupid.
What is the age difference between them? Like, it's not that much, is it? Like 10 years?
No, they're both officers. They both should be very well trained in moments like this. You know,
Bashir is supposed to be quite young, though. He's
28.
He's in his 20s when he starts the show.
Avery Brooks is in his 40s.
I would think so.
Late 30s, probably, when he first started.
He's how old's Jake? 16, right? So he's probably, he probably had Jake when he was, we know after he got out of the academy. So he's at least 40, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's not that much, but he's just way more worldly than Bashir is.
Yes.
Yeah. They really, especially the first 3 seasons, make a hard point to make Bashir seem like he's a prep school kid. You know, like he's just the kid that got 99% in every math science class, but didn't really know, you know, about history in the world. You know,
Yeah.
They changed that once he later on. I feel like they give him more.
They give him
like
a little more depth.
Yeah, a little more depth, and he knows a lot about English history and stuff like that. Okay. This is also the first of 4 episodes. The other 3 being Past Tense Part 2, Paradise Lost, and Star Trek Children of Time. Sorry, not to feature any scenes on Deep Space Nine or show the station in any scene, save the opening credits. Although Quark does appear briefly on the Defiance view screen in the bar's back room, so I guess there is some shot of the real station.
Yeah.
The historical events in this episode take place in 2024. Another reference to that year was heard in Next Generation's The High Ground, where Data said that was the year when Ireland was reunified.
Oh, that's controversial. That was cut out in Britain because
Yeah.
it was so politically
Yeah.
controversial. And it doesn't look like Ireland's heading towards reunification in 3 years.
Still time.
No, but there's still, you never know. Maybe they'll have a change of heart. Cole Meany might have something to say about that.
It's over. I have the high ground. That's what I just thought.
Right. Is Cole Meany from Belfast or is he from the South?
Cole Meany? I think he's from the South.
Is he from the South? Okay.
He's from Dublin.
It's from Dublin. Christopher Brenner's apartment was later reused as Harry Kim and Libby's apartment in Non Sequitur. Chris Brenner, Vin Lee, and Bernardo Calvera are all named after characters from the classic film The Magnificent Seven. Brenner also takes his name from Oscar-winning actor Yul Brynner, who plays Chris Adams in the film. BC was named after his first assistant director, BC Cameron.
Okay.
That's a pretty cool fun fact. Reference Rules of Acquisition number 111 was referenced. Treat people in your debt like family, exploit them.
Yep.
And number 217, you can't free a fish from water.
Correct.
Okay.
Why can't you free a fish from water?
They die.
Yes.
You
You separating them is like impossible.
Some fish like they jump out and then they jump back in.
But
Right.
they're not really free from the water. They
Correct.
just jump out temporarily.
They don't want to. It wouldn't be freedom. There would be a lack of freedom. So I guess
They're free in the water.
Oh, I get it.
Like we can hold our breath, but not for long.
Yeah, it's like it's freeing us from air.
You can't free us from the air.
From air.
That's the same thing.
Can't free a human from air. Nope.
On the clock on the wall in the processing center, the date reads Friday, 8/30/24. This is correct. August 30th, 2024 will be a Friday.
I got even a bigger thing. I saw that it said 15 degrees Celsius on the clock, which indicated to me that they were saying that by the time we get to in 30 years from now, America will have converted to the metric system.
In 3 years.
They were wrong.
Well, not
3
yet.
more years, Dave.
Yeah,
Write it
3 more
down.
years.
Exactly.
Joe Biden can change it.
Write it down. See if it happens. Also, more importantly, see if it actually is 15 degrees in San Francisco on that day. That seems pretty cold for San Francisco in August.
No, but it's cold. It's cold in San Francisco though. Sometimes.
Is it?
Sometimes
Okay.
they get like weird microclimates.
Okay.
Mark Twain said the coldest winter he ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
Really?
Yeah. This episode continues a pattern in the Star Trek franchise whereby visits to the Earth past often take place in San Francisco. In The Voyage Home, 1986, and in Time's Arrow, Part 2, in 1992 from Next Gen.
It annoys Rob Cisternino. He's like, why do they never go to New York City in
It's
Star
true.
Trek?
It's such a homer.
Well, they did in Far Beyond. And
a homer.
sorry, not what's the Kirk one? Aren't they in New York then?
What in
it's forever
the-
there.
Yeah,
Like the
they're in
only
New York.
time.
Yeah.
But they got to deal with the most New York lady there is, Edith Keeler, who's clearly from England, or
Right? Yeah. Well,
she's
she has
at
an
least
English.
from Westchester, New York.
She's from Westchester. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Patrick
This
Stewart.
This episode continues a pattern. This episode is the first in Star Trek production to feature scenes set in the 21st century. Next Gen Encounter at Farpoint contained a simulation of the 21st century, but it was only one of Q's illusions.
Yep.
But it was kind of an historical reenactment, right?
It was an illusion.
Like Q, like the courtroom with Q. Like that's meant to be something that was real, would come from the century. And there'd be a guy wearing a weird suit that looks like a bomb suit. But he's like, right. Use that voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to live through that.
Well, I mean, no, Dave with that costume on going, ha ha ha.
I think Dave would kill himself with those costumes. If everybody started wearing those,
big gold chain.
Be like, I have no reason to live.
No, those aren't. Well, the Q robes are okay with that weird hat. Let's see if that comes.
Sisko tells Bashir that he could use a shave after spending a couple days in the sanctuary. Ironically, Sisko grows a goatee later this season, debuting in Explorers, and he keeps it until the end of the series. He went full hawk in Explorers. He never went back.
Makes sense.
No, he didn't shave his head until season 4, though. So that was when he went full hawk.
The head was a different thing.
Not until
the
Worf
goatee
shows up that he goes full hawk.
Yeah. Dick Miller has acted in 2 different Star Trek series. He portrayed the newsstand vendor in The Next Gender's The Big Goodbye, and then appeared in 2 episodes of season 3 of Deep Space Nine. In DS9, he played the character Vin. And in all 3 episodes, he plays characters from centuries before the time frames of the series.
Yeah, they're like, this is not a guy from the 21st century. This is definitely a guy from our century.
He's the archetype of us.
Yeah.
Like, come on, he's got like a face like an old catcher's mitt, It's that's a man who's lived through the 20th century.
Dave, we have a 47 reference.
Oh, I'm so thrilled.
Very important. 47.
You know how numbers work.
Yeah. Do you know how numbers work? Sisko, Dax, and Bashir are sent back in time. How many years? 347 years, from 2371 to 2024.
That's not 47. That's
347.
47.
I know how numbers work.
So I don't think you do. It's 340.
Make us go.
It's not 348 years. It's 347.
We are smart.
John L. Bennett was Avery Brooks' stand-in throughout the series. In this episode, Bennett plays Gabriel Bell, and Brooks plays Bell stand-in within the context of the pilot. I was right.
Oh my gosh.
That is my new favorite fun fact.
A stand-in is below a stunt double, I think.
Yeah, I know.
A stand-in is just who they use to figure out the lighting and the blocking.
Yeah, he does. He's not supposed to look like it.
No?
Yeah.
Jeff is right. It's that.
I think it's close enough. Close enough.
Close enough. I'm giving it to him.
He's getting off on a technicality.
This is the second DS9 episode this season where a character played by John L. Bennett is stabbed to death, leading to a main character taking his place. The first was Kozak in The House of Quark.
Oh, so that guy also played Kozak?
He also played Kozak.
Yeah, Quark killed him with the knife by accident too. Yeah, so he likes to get stabbed.
He's like, you know what? Stab me. I'm okay with it.
Anyone likes to get stabbed.
Well, he does.
But he acts the shit out of it.
Yeah. Well, he likes to pretend he gets stabbed, not real.
Goes in for his audition. They're like, "So what can you do?" He's like, "I get stabbed real good.
I play dead on the ground pretty well."
Okay, those were the fun facts for the first episode. Now we're on to the second episode.
All right.
The boxing advertisement scene in the 1930 scene with Kieran O'Brien showcases the same boxers as an advertisement scene in the original series installment, The City on the Edge of Forever. The ad from the Star Trek City on the Edge of Forever is for a bout at Madison Square Garden. The ad scene in this episode is for a bout at Bayland Garden, and notes that it is their first rematch since Madison Square Garden. The reason this poster was used was to give a subtle hint that O'Brien and Kira were on Earth at exactly the same time as Kirk and Spock were on Earth. Doug Drexler says that the poster was included because the scene featuring time travels popping into an urban setting was almost identical to the one in City on the Edge of Forever.
Ooh.
That's super cool.
That is cool.
I'm
Way better
killing
than
it.
47.
I'm killing it with the fun facts, and the 47's
killing it.
included.
Well, yeah, okay. Some there you have hits and misses with these fun facts. Some of them are like,
Yes.
well, guess what? There's 347 years, and sometimes it's 74 backwards or something. That is, if you know how numbers work, 48 was wretched.
Look, if you know how numbers work, numerology, you break it all down, you can make 47 pop out of anywhere. Okay. Past Tense Part 2 was Jonathan Frakes' third and final DS9 directing credit, and it was this direction that secured him the job of directing First Contact. He played William T. Riker in The Next Generation. I know that.
So why do you think that is? Why? But what impressed the decision makers about his directing of this episode that decided to give him a feature film?
Suspense. I think he was able to do suspense pretty well in this episode.
Yep.
And because a lot of the other directors that they tried to get for First Contact said no, and they were like, let's just go with Frakes.
This episode 2 is also very dramatic. There's not a lot of quirkiness. There's not they try to add a little bit in here and there.
Yeah.
But it's dramatic.
It's all O'Brien
he
and Kira.
nails it. It's an excellent episode.
Crossover appeal. Crossover.
Yeah.
O'Brien and Kira get all the comic relief, in the second episode. The civilian clothes Miles O'Brien and Kira Nerys wear during their various travels through time are the same clothes they both wore in their mission to Cardassia 4 to rescue Lee Nollis. It's funny. Again, we are killing it, guys, today. There's no wonder you thought of Lee Nollis. They're wearing the same clothes.
They're wearing the same clothes.
Okay, here my favorite part about their whole thing too was I thought it was like at least the same outfit for Kira. Also that he kept the tricorder in that bag that she had to wear, because as soon as they materialized, he grabbed the tricorder out of her bag. I'm like, hey, why can't you have your own bag, O'Brien? Why do you got to get her to carry it in the satchel? Is it because he didn't think it would look good? And this was supposed to be their civilian clothing to beam into 1940s. They knew what year they were beaming into. In all cases,
no, they didn't. I don't think it was always going to be something different. And they weren't sure. I don't think what time period they were going to.
Well, I don't know what period this clothes are supposed to be from, but it was.
I think they're just supposed to be generic clothes.
Yeah.
This is their we got to go on a rescue mission clothes. Okay.
And they don't want to replicate anything else.
Sisko discusses the London Kings and the Buck Bokai with Vin, played by Dick Miller. Both the player and the team were first mentioned during Miller's first appearance in The Big Goodbye.
Yep.
And don't forget If Wishes Were Horses.
Okay. The song heard when Kira and O'Brien are transported to the 1960s is Hey Joe, played by the Jimi Hendrix Experience. However, the Netflix version does not contain the song, possibly for copyright reasons. Good thing I watched part 2 up here, and I didn't watch it on Netflix. So
I think the Netflix version did have the Jimi Hendrix.
It did not.
Did not?
They say it doesn't. Yeah.
It's some random song. It's not. I watched it on Netflix.
I did too. I guess it was generic. I guess I don't know what Jimi Hendrix has.
Yeah, that's sad. Okay. The official Star Trek chronology states that the 2 years to which O'Brien and Kira travel back in time in the hope of finding the others are 1930 and 1967. It's not the 70s. It's actually the 60s.
I thought it was the 40s, but it was the 1930s. But which makes sense because that's when Kirk and Spock went to New York City.
1930.
Even though they're there at the same time, they're nowhere near each other. They're on different sides of the continent.
But it's a nod.
But it's still neat that they're there at the same time.
It's an ode. Yeah, that's what they did that on purpose. Clint Howard, who plays Grady earlier, portrayed Baylock in the Corbinite Maneuver. He also played Muck in Enterprise Acquisition, Creepy Orion in Discovery. Will You Take My Hand?
Yeah, he'll be back. Don't worry.
This
we haven't
is
seen the last of
Tanya.
Clint Howard.
I hope you relish it as much as I.
Yeah. In this episode, aired in 1995, Cisco states that the 2015 London Kings were the greatest team in baseball history. Vin claims it was the 1999 Yankees. In reality, the Yankees did indeed win the World Series in 1999, but the Yankees teams of the previous year won 16 more games and have often been called one of the greatest teams ever. The accuracy of the prediction is surprising, given that while the Yankees were clearly a team on the rise in early 1995, there was little to suggest that the team would go on to dominate the later half of the 1990s the way they did.
There was also little to suggest that London, England would get a baseball team by 2015.
Yeah, like the British don't like baseball.
But that's what they were suggesting, is that unless it was London, Ontario, that they were playing out of.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe London, Ontario, but not very big town.
I think it's more likely that it's
London, England.
London, England.
Yeah.
The London Kings would probably be from.
I wouldn't be surprised if London.
Although a team would do better, I think, in London, Ontario than London, England.
London, England, I think is going to get a NFL team probably within 3 years. I could see that. But okay. The temperature is displayed as 15 degrees Celsius, suggesting that the United States would have converted to the metric system. Not going to happen. This episode was the last to air before the premiere of Star Trek Voyager on the 16th of January, 1995.
I like when Jeff Fun Facts just confirms everything I've already said, which just,
Jeez.
It has to know shit.
Stretch first, Dave, before you pat yourself on the back like that. Okay.
This is part of Fun Facts. There's no biases. We just read the facts. This is the last of 12 DS9 episodes. The first being The Search Part 1 that premiered without another Star Trek series also on the air. All episodes of DS9, The Search Part 1, and after this premiered, while another Star Trek series was also running before The Search Part 1, The Next Generation, after this episode of Voyager. That was a really badly written fun fact. Okay. Alexander Siddig feels that both Past Tense Part 1 and Part 2 were important shows for Bashir. Really? Because Cisco kind of treats you like an idiot the whole time. And
I think it's important for Bashir and Cisco's relationship.
Yes.
I think that, when you think about those two together, I think about this quite a bit.
Yeah, they're good together. In whatever episodes they have together, they're very good together.
Mm-hmm.
They're both tremendous actors. And I do think that Bashir sometimes, he doesn't, especially in the first 3 seasons, he's always kind of playing dumb. And he's kind of like the guy that needs to ask the obvious question, which is never kind of a fun place to be as the actor, because then...
Yeah. Do you think we're supposed to do something?
Yeah. Oh, that's what history's about? Oh, yeah. I never knew.
I don't know anything about this time period.
Which, you know what? I get it. It has to be written in the script so the audience hears it, so you convey that. But it just sucks that it always seems to come out of Bashir's mouth for the first 3 seasons. Okay. Yeah. Some members of the National Guard surrounding Sanctuary A are carrying British Army assault rifles. The SA-80A1 is a rear loading rifle, which is distinctly different from the American arm-like design. The A1 was replaced by the A2 in the early 2000s. Okay, that's some gun.
You guys think I'm nerd about my uniforms? This is gun nerdom.
That was a gun fun fact. In the processing center, Webb's son Danny states that his mother and Jeannie are safe with the Petersons. In Tribunal, season 2, episode 25, Keiko jokes with Miles that Molly preferred the Petersons, a family who cared for Molly while the O'Briens were on vacation. Perhaps they were related hundreds of years down the road.
That's why. They were planting the seeds with those Petersons early.
Yeah. Okay, and then finally, Clint Howard as Grady, the bum obsessed with aliens. The role was written for Iggy Pop, but he was unfortunately unavailable. Pop later guest starred in a Deep Space Nine episode, The Magnificent Ferengi.
So all that dialogue where he could turn himself invisible, that was meant for Iggy Pop?
That was meant for Iggy Pop, and he was busy, probably doing drugs.
Well, I'm glad he was busy.
Yeah, I'm glad he was busy. I'm glad. I guess his the Vorta he played it later on was so memorable, right?
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it for fun facts. I hope you guys
All
enjoyed.
right. Well, then that's time to get to the ratings. Let's bring that in. All right, Jeff, you want to start us off? The first and the second episode, please.
The first part is a 10 for me.
Ooh, first part is the 10. Okay.
Yeah, the second part for me is like an 8.5.
All right. I'm gonna give the first part. What did I actually wrote down my rating in my notes for the first hour. Sorry, I should be more prepared. I gave it an 8.7. I'd say that the second part is lower for me, even though it's got some strong acting. I think it's actually, it's like an 8.2 or something. Real?
I'm going to go with an 8.8 and an 8.6. 10 business. Wow. Whew.
Actually,
9.5 for the first one. I'm gonna give the second one a 9.5 too.
Okay. Oh, it's pretty good ratings here. And Kevin?
A 10 for the first episode, a 10 for the second episode, and a 10 for this episode of Deep Space Nine at 9ish.
9ish.
Thank you, Kevin.
I'm the low mark. Wait, what?
You're the low mark. Your 8.8s and your 8.6s just won't cut it here. This is I feel like I went too high. I was worried here.
I'm like, okay, I understand people liking the episode, but 10s? You guys, yeah, okay.
The first part is one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek. The second part, it's okay, it's good, but it's I like the first part so much.
Did you reach out to Shives to find out?
I didn't ask him his rating, but we will. Maybe we should get him to phone that in. Yes, I could email him and say, "Hey, can you rate Past Tense Part 1 and 2?" Jeff, what's up next on next week?
Well, that's a good question, Dave. Next week we got life support.
Ooh.
I don't know what episode that is. Let me look up real quick.
Oh, this is Bareil dies. It should be a 10, but it's like a 1.
Jake's got a new girlfriend.
Ooh,
right. Well, and Kira's gonna be single soon, so
ready to mingle. Single, ready to mingle.
Right. I remember that being sad. I remember the whole thing with Bareil dying being like, it's when you touch my hand. It's like a memory of you touching my hand.
That's not sad. It's awful
it was
to watch.
You know what? This
it's
episode,
sad because it's like, why didn't it happen sooner?
I have not seen this episode in like ever, like since like the early 2000s.
I don't remember.
I've never watched. I've never put this one on and went, you know what? I really want to continue watching this.
I would have much rather have Kira just mention in passing that he had died.
Yeah, that we didn't need a whole episode.
And then his shuttle exploded one day. Oh well.
It's like what? It's like Snoochie or Smoochie from The Simpsons. What was it? The dog, Itchy and Scratchy, and okay.
Also,
reference
dog. I don't.
Okay, so
remember.
we're gonna get this Bareil death episode. Yet the last time we saw Bareil, he was trying his hardest to sexually molest Dax.
Yes.
I mean, I don't. Maybe they should have waited an episode or two.
And this is what he gets.
Kira.
This is what he gets for what he did. Yeah.
Also, keep in mind he was being a dick to Kira as well, saying, "Don't worry, let the religious people don't worry handle things. You don't worry your little head." Basically, blowing her off. Yeah, screw this dude.
By the way, now Past Tense Part 1 and Part 2 are part of our top 10 of all Deep Space Nine episodes so far.
It would be higher, but some jerk had to give 8.7s and 8.6s.
Yeah. So our top 10 episodes in order of watching are now Dax from season 1, Duet, Bloodo, The
Dax
Wire.
is dropping like a stone.
Dax is holding up, man, because only me and Dave voted on that one. That was
it was only Jeff and I. So
we liked it.
Yeah, we liked it that night because it was the best we'd had so far.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, we're like, this is like a 9. But it was probably not. But
it was probably like a 7. It was probably a 7 or something.
It's gonna drop. I'm gonna watch the episode. I'm gonna give you the rating.
Yeah,
it's gonna drop.
we have there's just blank spaces, but we also have crossover, the Jem'Hadar, the House of Quark, Civil Defense, and now these 2 episodes. But I don't think that we'll see if that top 10 holds up over time or not.
Let's see if Shives puts in a 10 for Move Along Home, and we can get in the top 10 where it belongs.
Where it belongs. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
get Move Along. The campaign to re-establish Move Along Home to its rightful place among the 10 best Deep Space Nine episodes ever.
Absolutely.
It's always they asked Cisco Avery Books. They're like, "Well, what episode did you really not like doing?" And he was like, "Moraine and four more." He said that at a press conference. It was hilarious.
He said it was not one of his favorite.
No, he did not like it.
But he knows it off by heart. That's the thing.
Yeah, you don't know
Everybody
lines.
knows it off by heart.
They all had to learn it and sing it in unison
And learn to do hopscotch.
and hopscotch at the same time. Who wrote that? Oh my god!
Jeff, guess what else? On Wednesday original series, we're going to be watching Friday's Child with Julie Newmar, Catwoman.
Catwoman.
And
Is
she's
Dad
gonna be
excited?
slapping- She's gonna be slapping McCoy's face all the
It's
time.
the
Dad
one
is-
where McCoy fucking smacks her.
yeah, he smacks her all the time. It's amazing.
Well,
Uh,
you know, in the '60s, you could get away with it.
Warms up his
when you're
hand.
when you're a doctor and you need to get attention of this princess, you know, this Julie Newmar, slap her across the face.
Yeah, that we see in the '90s that you know, if you just got to grab Bashir and tell him where to go. Ugh.
That's what doctors do.
Yeah.
You know, or it was a reverse situation with them. So check that out tomorrow night, 7:00. And then we did the Star Trek Radio Theater on Saturday night with Steve Shives and Chris Seymour. I'm gonna get that edited and out soon. I just finished the edit on Armen Bashir. I'm a little bit behind on things. So once I get those edits done,
Look after your mental health, Dave.
yeah,
I'm
then
Team
I'll
Dave.
move on to our next production of Radio Theater and whatever the hell that's going to be. But I need to get.
So we're
those things.
taking a hiatus this week.
I think I think I might need a week off from Radio
Yes.
Theater. just a
Okay.
weekend off, just to relax.
That's probably good for you too, right? You're
Yeah, because
busy.
I
so.
work all weekend. So.
Yeah, so I'm gonna focus on just getting that edit out. But I did finish the Armen Bashir, which we did like 2 or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, and I think you know, you guys will really enjoy that when you have a listen. And then
Yeah,
our
oh,
other
no.
channels, Trivial Debates. We did Trivial Debates on Sunday. Jeff, did you check that out yet?
No, who won?
Well,
Jody.
Jody. Jody won so handedly. He was like giving out points. He's
Yeah, I
like,
was
"Hey,
giving out
hey,
points."
Yeah.
throw some points over here. Throw some points to them. They deserve it.
I'm gonna take
Uh,
myself out. Give everybody else points.
So, yeah.
It was kid gloves. It would kid gloves until the speed round, and then he just started smacking at him.
Yeah,
And Adam,
Adam was like recovering from his COVID vaccine shot. He's like, "Oh, what's happening?" And Jody's like, "Listen up."
yeah, yeah.
He was,
I know
he
you
was
two have
like
never
McCoy
been on
on
this
Julie
show.
Newmar.
But I win this every time I'm on it. So
Yeah,
and
Yeah,
today
so-
would be no different.
right. Yeah, and then we also did, our mother was on that. Eamon showed no favoritism.
she was great.
She was doing well.
She was doing a great job.
Also, yeah, she was hacked on the weekend. Don't take that email from her, by the way. But it's all been cleared up. And then on our other channel, Super Mater Brothers Podcasting, where we cover all kinds of stuff. We're gonna be doing the Falcon and the Winter Soldier soon. Ashley, you in for that?
Sure. Depends
Doing
on when it is.
Well,
Isn't it the week after? Not this week, but next week.
Yeah, the next week after the making of is over.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but
actually,
it just means
anytime
I work
after this
it can't be
Friday.
This Friday because I work this Friday.
Yeah, yeah. So anytime after this Friday. So if we could do it on maybe even this weekend, maybe.
Okay.
And cover it up. Cover it off. And the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Jeff, we did the Serpent.
Yep, we
Last-
covered the Serpent with Mott. Had a conversation with him about the 8-part series about the mass murderer known
Mott
as the
was so
Serpent.
funny after that podcast because Mott was like, Dave, like I thought we were talking about this show, but you hated it, And I was like, I didn't really hate it. I just, it wasn't like really for me. And he was like, Mott, I think I was too negative for Mott. I was like the Jody on that podcast.
Not really. I mean,
From Mott's perspective,
I
I'm
thought
like, you ever been
I thought Mott had like 2 hours of information in his brain, and he only had like 5-minute segments to get it all out of him. So he was just like, blah, 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 blah. He's just like trying to get it out of him.
I'd be like here explaining to him why the show isn't good for these reasons, and he was like,
Right.
"But oh, they might roofie me."
Yeah,
or whatever.
he just came out. It was just like so. You could tell that he had just watched it and he had all these thoughts in his head. It was amazing.
Check out that podcast.
Check out that podcast. You'll hear what Maud had to think about the serpent.
And then 3 times a week, Jamil and I are covering we're covering Big Brother Canada 9. We just we're into the 9th of the 10th week. We only have 2 weeks left.
2 weeks.
We are troopers.
2 weeks.
And this Big Brother Canada 9. It airs at 9 p.m. like twice a week. Jamil and I are on the air at like 10:30.
You guys are insane. I see sometimes like the third period's almost over in the Leaf game. I'm about to go to bed. It's like, Super Beta Bros podcasting is about to get started. I go, those idiots.
It's been worth it. We'll be able to. We've been covering it.
But you can see the energy level just kind of like is all over the place.
Last night we were like, oh my god, it's so late.
I just start ranting about how much I'm angry at production.
Yeah, the feeds were down for days. It was very controversial.
The feeds.
And that's it. That's all our programs. So.
That's all the programs. So check all that out, guys. And next week, Deep Space 99ish, we'll watch Vedic Royale Die. That will be a lot of fun.
Yes, get your popcorn.
Get your popcorn. Get your tea. Get your Kleenex because you'll shed maybe 1 tear. So get ready for that next week on Deep Space 99ish. So for all of us here at Live Long Podcast, please